This is a conversation with Steve Glaudini, and I'm Fred Tracy, the marketing director of Moonlight Stage Productions. Thanks for joining us here. And Steve, welcome.
Thanks, Fred. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be the same without you. So how's it going with you and Bets? How are you doing?
We're trying to find the positives in this, and, we have a house full of food and a happy puppy and a roof over our heads and our health. So we're just staying indoors so we can beat this thing and so we can all get back together.
And we are really looking forward to getting back together. The Moonlight staff, we're all working from home. I don't think we've seen each other for over a month.
Oh, physically, yeah.
Yeah, physically. We've been on Zoom a few times. I'm interested to know, just a silly question, what are you binge watching?
Well, we just finished the series finale of Homeland yesterday. We've been finding a lot of really cool original Netflix series. I'm blanking on the author's name. I want to say it's like Harlan Coben, and he did Safe, and he did some really great British thrillers. Bets and I like thrillers. And it is what it is. It is what it is. Top Chef on Thursdays. We saw the new Tim Gunn making the cut. Bets is a big Project Runway fan, so on Amazon Prime. So you know what? We keep ourselves busy at night for sure.
That's for sure. We're going to talk about various things in this chat today. We're going to talk about, just the situation we're in right now, how it is affecting us. We're going to talk about lots of people want audition tips. So we're going to talk about the casting process at Moonlight. But first, I would like for our viewing audience just to get to know you a little bit better. So before we delve in on all of the business stuff, Steve, I want to ask you, what is your earliest theatrical memory?
As an audience member?
As an audience member or a participant?
I think, I believe I was 4, maybe 5. My mom and dad took me and my brothers to see Kathy Rigby when she had just won her medals, and they did a version of Peter Pan. It was all lip synced. They had it was all click track, but she did all of her tricks on the Jolly Roger, and they had uneven parallel bars on Skull Island, and it was at the LA Sports Arena. And that was like my first, when I was just really bit with it. But the moment I knew I wanted to act for a living was my senior year in high school. And I came out for my bow as Joseph in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And everyone stood, and I turned around and looked at the cast, and I'm like, I could do this for the rest of my life.
Do you recall what that feeling was like?
Oh yeah, it was the biggest rush, but it wasn't like for the ego. It was just like a communal feeling that we all just left nothing on the table for the last 2 hours, and that was the response that we got. So it was electrifying, actually. I just remember saying, this is what I want to do forever.
And you've had a very interesting career. You've worked at Disney. You've been an agent. So you've been on the other side of the business. And then you, in 2012, you were named artistic director at Moonlight, and you came from Musical Theater West. And your first season here was in 2013. What was it about the Moonlight that you saw that interested you in wanting to become artistic director?
Well, I think it was very interesting because Kathy, I remember during Hairspray, and mentioned that when I was directing Hairspray in 2011, that she was thinking about retiring. And I was like, nah, that's not going to happen. And so when I saw the press release that she did, because I had been approached about it, but I, was very happy where we were in LA. And, then I really started thinking about the Moonlight family, because Betts was in the very first show. And I'm like, well, what if someone came in who doesn't know Stan Cohen and Ellen McMahon and just wants to clean house and not know the deep, rich roots that we have at the Moonlight, and knowing the tradition and that Kathy put in place. And that was really important to keep those and to continue the legacy of what the Moonlight was. So once the mind was made, it was just like, come on, let's just do it. Because it's an audience I knew as an actor, as shows I've directed here every summer. So I kind of knew the community, and it just kind of seemed like a really good fit.
What was your first show that you were in at Moonlight?
My very first show was in 1996. I played Mr. Smee in Peter Pan. Everything comes full circle to Peter Pan. But it was my first show, not only for Moonlight, but with Randy Hickman, who was my Captain Hook. And we were surprised there was any scenery left by the time that show closed.
Okay, let's talk about you and Randall in that show. Just tell us about the experience of working with Mr. Hickman.
Well, I'd never worked with somebody so physical, and he doesn't remember this, but on our first rehearsal, we were so in sync with each other that he ripped my clothes. And he doesn't remember ripping my shirt. But I remember he threw something at me, and I'm like, oh, is that how we're going to play? And so we just volleyed back and forth, and it was just like a really perfect team. I mean, we did so many shows together, and Kathy, I don't know, it was, allowing us to ad-lib as much as we did. We probably added 15 minutes to the show, but it was just the beginning of a great, great friendship.
And that's a friendship that's gone on for a lot of years. And Randy's history goes back even further. Yes. So as the artistic director, how do you put together a season? What are your considerations? What's your thought process?
Well, we always try to give one family show a year. So, and there's not a lot of those that are written. So we're kind of getting to the end of that list. But it's to me, it's like painting a picture, I mean, you'll know, I'll put shows together, and then I have to print out the logos and see them in a lineup. So I have to see what they look like on your poster or brochure that you're going to make. And, just see, does it look, is it attractive? Is it something for everybody? Because if we just did a season of classics, we're only going to a certain demographic. That's not going to be bringing in the single ticket buyer who doesn't really need to see the Sound of Music for the 17th time. But then there's a demographic who wants to comfort food and sing along in the audience. So I try to just do something for everybody. And that's why this year is so particularly disappointing, because I mean, from Gershwin to the zoink, crazy comedy of Something Rotten, to the glorious Cinderella, to the majestic Ragtime, and to the fabulousness of Kinky Boots. There was just something for everybody. Something new, something old, it just kind of was a perfect mix.
Yeah, we'll talk about the season that is hopefully coming up at some point. I was curious, as the artistic director and as the producer, what's it been like for you to see the reaction to the seasons that you've planned, and to have seen the numbers, increase year after year?
Yeah, I mean, it's very exciting, and to be, quite honest, as you know, Fred, not everybody's thrilled with it. Some people don't like the newer things, but we're finding that that's what's selling the tickets, and that's where our increase is coming, is that there are people who go, well, I don't have to go to New York if I know, because Steve's going to bring that to the Moonlight. And so, it's very exciting. It's very exciting, which is why something like when the pandemic strike, when you're watching this series of growth, and then we're all now wish we had this crystal ball, then what are people going to do now? Are they going to feel safe? We're lucky because we're outside. So I think that's good on, for people's psyches. But it was kind of a big jolt to us, because we just had been seeing that lovely growth year after year. And, it was thrilling. It's been thrilling, and it's been a fun journey so far.
Is there one show that has jumped out at you that you're just like so pleased and happy with as the artistic director?
In of the shows that I've produced?
Yes.
Well, that's tricky, because I'm proud of every single one of them. I think one thing that will always stand out was when we did Young Frankenstein, my first season, because we hadn't done a show that risque before. And it was just so fun to watch the audience. Like, I haven't heard laughter in a theater like that in such a long time. And with Chris Loosman and his great sound that he could put Frau Blucher's horses behind you and the surround sound. And it was just hilarious. And I think of Larry and Jamie and Tracy Lore and Noelle and Jessica. I mean, it was, and Randy, of course. It was such a wonderful ensemble doing that great Mel Brooks piece.
I was standing at the back of the house with you on opening night of Young Frankenstein, and just kind of waiting to see what was going to happen with the audience. And when there was that sudden eruption at just the right time, did you take a breath? What were you feeling?
Yes, because you have to remember, my first season, I opened with South Pacific, and we had just closed The Wizard of Oz. So I'd given a classic and a family show, and now we're getting into a newer, because we were the premiere, we were the first theater professionally to do Young Frankenstein with those national tour sets and costumes. I think once people just thought, okay, oh, this is going to be unapologetically Mel Brooks, and they realized, you know what, we can laugh, and it's okay. We're adults, and we can laugh. But I think my shoulders did drop when we saw the reactions that came really right out of the gate. So I was very relieved, because that let me think, okay, we can do newer pieces. We can, I don't want to say push the envelope, but we can be adults. It doesn't all have to be family friendly.
Is there a musical that you're just either dying to produce or dying to direct that you haven't yet done?
Well, the one show I'm dying to produce is Disney's The Lion King. I think we have the perfect environment to produce that show. I just said, can you imagine in Circle of Life and all those animals coming down the center aisles and through, I mean, it would be outdoors and you're seeing the birds twirling around and you're looking up under San Diego stars. I think it would be perfection.
Agree. Would you direct that show?
No, I'll tell you why. Because Randy Hickman made me make a pact with him that if we ever did The Lion King, that I would come out of acting retirement to play Timon to his Pumbaa. And I said, oh God, Randy, that's kind of hard to pass up singing Hakuna Matata with Randall Hickman. Yeah.
But you've not been in retirement acting wise. Stage.
Yes, I don't choose to do it. Let me put it that way. I mean, when John Vaughn approached Betsy and I about playing Mr. and Mrs. Banks, and then I was with Larry. We were in the mountains over the holidays, and literally like the day after we came home, he asked me about Ismay in Titanic. I'm like, we were together for a week. Why now? And he was afraid I would say no. And, I just really have to look at my calendar, because obviously not now, but when we're in our busy time and you're at the Moonlight every night or in rehearsals for the show you're directing, to add an acting one on your plate, I just want to make sure that I don't spread myself too thin. And for me, it's really going to be a role that would be a challenge. And after rereading Titanic, I kind of fell in love with the man. I mean, he's a real human being. And one of my greatest pleasures was that I got booed at my curtain call every performance. That means I did something right.
And didn't you get a couple of reactions when you were out in public?
I did. Yeah, I'd be walking Sammy and people would boo at me as they drove by. And I'm like, wow. I remember Jen Bradford's mom couldn't look at me after the show. She couldn't believe, I mean, they thought that Ismay was who I am. And I'm like, goes to show what a great director can do. And the incredibly talented Peter and Kathleen turned me into him with that wig and mustache.
Can you walk us through the casting process at Moonlight? And then we'll talk about auditions after that. Yes,
casting process. Well, typically depends on the director's schedule, but we have a 2-day process in casting. 1 day is generally a principal callback, and 1 day is the ensemble callback. If it's a dancing ensemble, we will dance and then make a cut, and then either do another combination and make another cut, and then we sing them typically in parts. If it's a singer show like Titanic or Hunchback or Ragtime, those tend to be what I call just the big cattle calls, because if you can sing, you get a call back for the most part. So we had about, this is what's weird is that like ragtime was the Tuesday night before that Thursday when Broadway and Disneyland and every place closed. We had 150 people on our stage, in our stage house, trying to get into the ensemble of ragtime. And not even 2 days later, we were told we can't gather. So it was surreal. It was surreal. So with the singer call, we again put them in parts. We go away, we make a rather large cut, and then typically sing them something else. And then if there's slight movement, we did a New Rochelle combination, and we did a Harlem combination. But for principals, it's, you know, you get to sing, and we make a cut, and then you get a read, and then we'll pair people up, or we'll, you know, that's kind of generally how we do it.
And when folks come into audition, what are they doing for auditions?
Well, I've often said auditioning for the Moonlight is not the easiest, because like this season, for example, you're singing one song, but you're auditioning for 5 shows. And I can always tell the person who comes in with the Rodgers and Hammerstein tune that they're more probably the Cinderella ragtime person, or, you know, American in Paris. But American in Paris, you all had to dance. I mean, it's a ballet. So this one was tricky. So I always say is sing what you know. Sing the song that you do best. Don't specifically choose a song for a particular show. Do the song in your book that you can knock out of the park vocally. You can tell me the story, show me that you can act, and you do it within the allotted time. Don't spend more time at the piano with the accompanist than your actual audition time is, because that's when you can see the people behind the table get a little frustrated. But so just do what you know. Do what you know. It's the best, because it's your time. Make the most of your time.
Do you have any other tips for people who might be interested in auditioning for us in the future?
I always say, show me you're an actor, because at the end of the day, our job is to tell stories. Yes, they happen to have song and they happen to have dance, but if we don't buy the story, if we don't buy, like West Side Story, here's this huge dance show, right? With a score that is, every song's a hit. But at the end of the day, it's Shakespeare. It's based on Shakespeare. It's Romeo and Juliet. So if the drama is not there, the acting is not there, then we don't have a show, in my opinion. So tell me a story. Tell me a story.
And do you have any tips or advice as to what not to do at an audition?
Oh, well, it's, you know, I always say an audition is your time. We are held captive behind a table, so we're a built-in audience. So I would say, do not overthink it. Do not over choreograph it. Just come in, stand on the X, sing and act. There's people who just feel that they need to show us that they're also choreographers. So they do all this movement and stuff that totally detracts from the whole reason why what we want to see and hear. Because all your acting goes out the window, and a lot of times so does your breathing technique and all that. So just don't do our jobs. Just stand there. Just stand there. Don't let me know that you can dance now, because if you can sing, you'll get the callback, and then we'll know if you can dance.
For you, what is invigorating or exciting about auditions?
Oh, I think auditions is hands down the worst part of my job, because I started as an actor. I know exactly what it's like to go and audition. And Moonlight, you know, we get hundreds of people for not a lot of roles. You know what I mean? You see all these people who want it, because if you've never worked on the Moonlight stage, it is such an experience. I mean, to be outside, because the first couple of shows, it's still bright, you know, when the curtain comes up. So you are communal with that audience. You see them reacting. And I've often said Moonlight audiences don't sit on their hands. They like to tell you they've been having some food and beverage for the last hour and a half, and they're ready to have a great time. So What was your question? No, geez.
Well, you pretty much crossed my question because you said auditions were kind of the
It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing. And we're all sympathetic. And most directors, choreographers, we all started as artists, as performers. So we feel for you. We really, really do. I don't sit there with my arms crossed saying, you know, impress me. That's not it. You want every single person to knock it out of the park.
Right.
You really, really do.
So speaking of tips, you know, during this time, you know, when we're all, you know, required to stay home, do you have any advice or tips to actors, singers, dancers as to how they should be staying fresh?
I think you just, you know, use this. Here's an audience, you know, keep singing. You know, Beth has taken this time to learn piano. And she does an hour from her, you know, beginner piano book that her mother had. And she does it for an hour every day. You know, you have to keep those talents honed and, you know, sing every day. You know, dance every day. You know, read a monologue, read a script, you know, keep it a part of you. And just use this time wisely. I mean, I probably should be exercising more than I am, but you know, I'm constantly engaged with, you know, with you, with Colleen. You know, we're always with the foundation. I mean, like I told you earlier, we're brainstorming a million ways that if we can gather, even if it's only 50 to 100, we can do something at the Moonlight every weekend. We can social distance. We can do all the requirements that would be necessary and bring a concert, bring a movie, bring, you know, something that can fill us artistically. We've been put on this planet to entertain, and that's what's driving me more crazy, more than anything, is that we were supposed to have our gala last Saturday. You know, I wasn't supposed to be home. I was supposed to be in a tuxedo. You know?
And the weather was perfect Saturday night.
It was perfect. You know, the first equity for American in Paris was yesterday. We should have had a photo shoot, right, Fred?
Yes, we should have.
You know, so we would be loading in the American in Paris sets. You know, it's so odd because this is the busiest time for us.
During the casting process, the artistic team had to, you know, switch methods. You had to go to virtual callbacks. Can you just talk about, you know, what the artistic team had to do?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, because it was my show. And Cinderella was the last set of callbacks. And that Thursday, now granted, we didn't start telecommuting until another week from that. But, you know, after talking with HR and everybody, we're like, with social distancing, how can you waltz? So we decided for Cinderella that we would have everybody submit a video. So remember before when I said we watch 100 people dance and then make a cut? Nope, I had to sit through 100 individual dance videos. So it took
a lot of video.
70 to 80 hours worth. And normally I had like 16 Ellas called back, and after probably singing her first song, we would have made a cut. No, I listened to every vocal side, and I listened to every side. I think Ella had 7. And, you know, I'm like, I have the time. So every one of those actresses had the opportunity. What they didn't have was the opportunity for me to give adjustments, which is my favorite part of the process, is the callback. When you're in the room and you're feeding the energy, you can pair those two actors together to see chemistry and stuff. So that was really, really hard. And then we all Zoomed with Randy, our musical director, and we went through our notes, and that's how we cast the show.
That's a big change. And if you could look into your artistic directors, producers' crystal ball, how do you see this situation changing the chorus of local theater?
Well, I mean, I mean, this was just responsible for us to do in the situation we were in. I hope it gets back to what it was. I hope we can eventually be back in the room. Who knows what this whole social distancing and how many people can gather. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to have to take into consideration now until we're told, okay, it can all go back to whatever normal was. So I think it's going to be a lot of taking it day by day, as we all are now. You know, we're in contact with all the artistic directors, and it's, you know, everybody's hoping. They have this imaginary date that they hope to be back, but we can't be back till we're told we can. So right now, yes, we're hopeful for 3 of the 5. I'm also realistic, you know. Yeah. It's just if we still can't, I mean, we have to rehearse in June for Cinderella. So if they're looking at schools in July, you know, but I'm not going to cancel until we're told that that's the situation we're in.
Right, right.
Moonlight comes first, patrons come first, and, you know, and then, like I said, then we have to really rethink what 2021 is going to be like.
Right, right. So let's change gears a little bit and talk about something a little bit happier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a question from someone, and he wants to know, can you talk about your first Moonlight experience and when you first met Bets? How did that all come together?
Okay, well, my first Moonlight experience was I had several friends who were in the premiere when Moonlight got the premiere of Into the Woods in 1990. Roger Castellano was the baker in that production, and he was choreographing a show I was doing at Disney called the Disneyland Pigskin Classic. So a lot of us went to go see Lisa Dyson and Johnny Bison and Lorinda and all these friends, and I walked into this theater, and wait a minute, Jack and the baker are in a tree singing "No One Is Alone," and they buried Milky White on a hill. And then this woman who I thought was 40, who did the best Bernadette Peters impersonation I thought at the time. She looked just like her, she sounded just like her. And then that was 1990, and then 1992, I was on tour promoting Fantasmic before Fantasmic opened in 1992. And Ray Lamone calls me and asked me if I wanted to play the One More Angel in Heaven brother in Joseph. And I said, oh God, I've been gone for 6 months. Maybe I'll just pop into the rehearsal and see. And I got there when Bets was singing Pharaoh's Story. And of course, she was incredible. And I said, I'd do the show, and we met. And I didn't believe that she was the witch. I couldn't believe it because she was only 20. So that means she was 18 playing the witch. So she thought I was a jerk because I didn't believe her. And that's where it all started. But that cast of Joseph, we had Eric Gunnis was our Joseph. He went on to originate the Springtime for Hitler tenor on Broadway, and the producers did it the whole run. Devin May, who of course went off and did Bat Boy. It was a really terrific, fun production. But that's my first Moonlight experience and how I met Bets.
And this is a fun story that you like to tell, but for anyone who's not heard it, where was your first date with Bets?
I wanted to see if she had a sense of humor. So I took her to Carl's Jr. True story. True story. And on the first anniversary of our date, she would use to, even if she was when she was in New York doing Wonderettes, I hear a knock on the door and David Angle will drop off a Western bacon cheeseburger. True stories.
So she was mad at you for not believing she played the witch, but she wasn't mad at you that you took her to Carl's Jr.
No, she thought it was hilarious. And that's when I'm like, okay, you're the one.
And how long have you two been together?
Oh my gosh. We've been together for 28 years. And this last February was our 25th wedding anniversary. And we went to London and Paris, thank God, in late December. She closed Grinch. We went the next day and we were gone for 2 weeks. And I'm just so grateful that we were able to have that trip because so many friends are not getting to travel now. So it was a wonderful way to celebrate 25 married years.
Right. You know, this is, you know, it goes without saying this is a challenging time. And, you know, Steve, we have in the Moonlight family, you know, we have ticket buyers. We also have amazing donors who support us and are supporting us. Can you just, talk about, the importance of donating at this time, and, and just to talk about, how ticket sales only cover a certain portion of costs.
The foundation, our Moonlight Culture Foundation, Jen and Justin have been fantastic. We have done virtual happy hours with our donors, and just to let them know we're thinking about them and see what they've been doing, and even if we can just provide a little levity, so they have been really on top of it. It's going to be rough for a lot of theaters. It really, really is. We're lucky in some ways because we do have a very generous patron base, but this is a really serious time. And if you can do the donation, of course, we thank you. And if you can't, we understand. We understand that not everyone is in that position. But I do appreciate everything that our foundation does.
Indeed, and the foundation, they are basically, helping us keep connected with our audience through our content, that we're doing right now. They've, kind of taken the lead on that, and we're so appreciative.
Yeah, they've been fabulous. Yeah.
Steve, just kind of wrapping it up a little bit. Okay. Is there a specific Moonlight memory that you have that just kind of sticks out to you, and why is that special? And then can you just talk about, what the specialness is of the Moonlight family and what Moonlight family means?
I've had several. I think as a director, it was during Big Fish. And I think it's when I had asked our technical team, is there any way we can put daffodils inside the orchestra pit? So when Edward Bloom and Sandra started backing up on the pass rail, they just appeared, and then they walked on stage, and the whole stage was covered with daffodils. Because I'd never done a show with projections like that, and it felt like, I felt like a kid on Christmas morning when we finally got to add that element to the show. And that was special. I think as an actor, sharing the stage with Betsy and Mary Poppins, and watching the audience respond to when Bert walked upside down, I think that was just one of those Moonlight memories that people just are not going to forget. I don't think in a million years they thought that Bert was going to walk up the wall of the Moonlight proscenium and tap dance upside down.
Right. I had a lot of, theater reviewers who were just, blown away by the fact that he was upside down.
Yeah. I mean, to hear the reaction that got. I mean, and some nights we had, 2,800 people there. It was pretty darn exciting. And I think the thing, what Moonlight is it is family. You hear that from a lot of people because it really is. It's, we're a business and we're an entity of the city. But when you come and your city manager and your mayor and your city council not only come to the shows, but they come to multiple performances. I want to say, I think Mayor Judy came 7 times to Aida. Patrick came 6 times to Catch Me If You Can. This is city leadership that really believes in the power and the importance of the arts in a community. And that's truly what it is. When you see the families having their picnics and grandmas with their kids at the family shows, and I don't know, and then this whole younger demographic that's now coming. We're introducing theater to people in their 40s and 50s who may not have thought that musical theater is a thing to do, but hey, you can do it at the Moonlight, get a local craft beer on tap, sit under the San Diego stars in our great weather, and watch a Broadway show. It's pretty magical. I had a friend describe the Moonlight as, it's kind of like watching The Wizard of Oz. You park in Kansas, and then you walk through those gates, the Emerald City gates, and then you're in Oz. You're in the Emerald City. And I kind of think that's a really cool way to describe what a Moonlight experience is. It is an experience. It's not just going to the theater. You're going to the Moonlight, where your family is.
Right. This time that we're experiencing, the arts, are so important, which is why most of the reason, we're doing all of this online content is to bring, some uplifting distraction to people. Do you have any thoughts as to, what the arts mean right now?
Well, here's the funny thing is that they're saying that we're non-essential. I'm like, oh, really? Then I want you to remember that when your life does get back to normal, what got you through this time? Was it binging? Oh, who's in Netflix? Oh, those are actors. Was it music that got you through it? Oh, musicians, singers, artists. We are essential to the soul. So to be told we're not, I hope everyone remembers what has gotten them through. It's been something that has to do with the arts. It is the most important thing to keep alive. That's what's so weird. We'd have a world war and the first thing they do is rebuild the theaters. They wanted people.
That's true. Yeah.
They needed to they needed escape. They needed to, to go into this other realm. And that's what's so hard is that we're being told we can't gather, we can't hug, we can't tell stories. And that is what used to heal. And it's healing. It's just healing in a different way when we're all quarantined.
Right. If you were chatting with someone who had never been to the Moonlight, what would you tell them, what's so special about the Moonlight? What's so unique about the Moonlight?
Well, I think one is that we've paid homage to our early beginnings. We could have gotten rid of the grass tiers because you can put more chairs, which means more butts, which means more dollars. Well, we don't do that. There's the people that are so nostalgic from when they were 20, 30 years ago would come and bring their kids. Ray Robb will talk about bringing in the wet red wagon and laying down the blanket and, and experiencing that. So it's very important that we honor our past, but we also look to our future. And which is so exciting with our new stage house, which is now 10 years old, and there's a lot of repairs and new things that we need. But I just think the Moonlight is so unique, and it takes people's breath away. I don't think people are expecting the wow factor, because if you're not a donor, you don't park in cast and crew. You're parking in a lot. Hopefully, if we had good rains, it's green and not dirt, but sometimes it's just dirt, so
Yep.
You've never been here before, you don't know, but it's also free parking, which I love to say. It's just so unique. There's nothing like it. Even Hollywood Bowl is not as personal and intimate as the Moonlight can feel. And even when you have a house filled with people, it still feels intimate.
Mm-hmm.
And I know several of critics have said that, that they just there are moments when, in the Heights with just two people on stage and you feel like you're in their living room. You know what I mean? That's a wonderful, I don't know. We're really lucky.
We are lucky. And we're lucky that you joined us today. Thank you, Steve Glaudini, a conversation with Steve Glaudini. We hope you like this video, so please consider supporting our social media efforts. Go to moonlightstage.com and consider a donation. There's a link at the top of the website, and we're looking forward to bringing you more content for as long as we need to. We will be here with you. So thank you very much for joining in. Thank you, Steve.
Bye.